legal frameworks. And I'm just going to show you constitutional law, but there are also findings for statutes and administrative law. And our question, when we changed our toolkit, we actually, what we call poverty sensitizing, meaning we took our indicators and we asked, are there affirmative laws? Are there laws that actually ensure that poor communities and vulnerable communities are being consulted? So what did we find? I'll give you one example, one indicator, is the right to a clean environment. And here, the green represents that there's generally very strongly worded, here in the Constitution, that in the Constitution of these countries, there was strong wording to a right to a clean, sanitary environment. So 3 of the 4 countries had that. Sri Lanka is yellow because it was based, to some extent, on jurisprudence and not a clear clause in the Constitution. Now, we didn't find specific rights for the poor for a clean environment in many of the constitutions. However, we did find it in the Philippines, which has specifically social justice clauses in their constitution. Similarly, as Charles was talking about, there was the idea of equal protection. And beyond just equal protection, we were wondering, does the Constitution defend the ability of the government to actually go out and do extra programs or to prioritize programs for the development of its poorest citizens? And we actually found that Philippines and Sri Lanka both have express language in the Constitution that says that the government needs to go out and create programs to help the poor. Cameroon and Paraguay were less clear about that. They had some language about indigenous communities and so on. So, to give you an idea, these are just the constitutional clauses, and there are 3 things that I hope that you can see from this. First, generally speaking, there aren't as many, obviously, this is probably a no-brainer, but the constitutions don't necessarily provide protection for the poor, or provide for special actions by the government as frequently. But on the other hand, there are actually more affirmative laws than one would think. So if you take a look, these are the general laws, and when we compare them, they get worse when we look at, do they have specific clauses for poverty? But interestingly enough, there still are some affirmative laws. There are examples of laws in the world where the government has a constitutional mandate to carry that out. And although I'm not showing you today, there are the same pattern holds true for statutory law and administrative law. So to get to specific case studies, this was just the legal outline. We're also going to look at specific case studies. And here, access to information. We're looking at whether there are pull mechanisms and push mechanisms. So what do we mean by that? In essence, when we look at the systems that are in place, you have information systems and you have your general reactive laws. Here specifically, I'm thinking of Freedom of Information Acts. So it requires the public to go out and pull the information. They have to ask the government for that information. When we look in poverty, it's pretty rare that your poorest of the poor are going to go and file a freedom of information request in those countries with those in place. The question is, are there proactive systems for government to push information out to the public? And that's one of the things that we were looking at. Of course, that carries into practice. So this comes from Voice and Choice. We saw information systems as having 3 parts: collection, analysis, and dissemination. And we found that the breakdown often comes in the last part when you're dealing with poverty.